Hello walkers, and welcome to Vico Equense, or Equense, Italy. In the distance you can see Naples and Mount Vesuvius, a little bit of cloud cover. We are starting out today on our virtual treadmill walk, our walk at home video here at the train station, this tiny little train station and bus station, as you can see. And we are going to make our way down to a beach on the other side of this little rocky peninsula. My name is Henry. I'll be your proxy walker today, your virtual travel guide, your co-discoverer and co-explorer. And so welcome. A little bit about what's going on here. We've been staying here in Vico Equense for about 3 weeks now. We're actually leaving tomorrow. It's about 10 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 10 minutes by train from Sorrento, which you may have heard, and you may have walked along with me on a couple of those little walks. It is on the Bay of Naples, or Bay of Napoli, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is in November, mid-November, about noon. It's 18 degrees Celsius, 65 degrees Fahrenheit today, and we're just gonna explore a little bit. It's a very walkable town for the most part. Getting down to the little beach is, or getting back up is actually, you need a little bit of fitness to do that, but not too much, it's not too bad. And it's about a town of 20,000 people, which you would never guess. Given how small it is, or how small it seems. Excuse me. I'm going to come up here and take a look out over the bay. There's a little restaurant up here called Irace, which is quite good and has wonderful views out of the bay. Love all these little shops. You got a little motor scooter repair place in here, and photo shops and little groceries and all sorts of things. There are a bunch of these little towns all along the coast served by the EAV, Circumvesuviana line, which is not associated with the national train service. You have to buy your tickets separately. They're pretty affordable, pretty easy to get. Every office, every stop seems to have a ticket office, and they're open like starting at 6 a.m. and going till I don't know how late, but well after dark. You can see some olive trees down there. These palm trees. Oh, it's so peaceful. People out here taking their leisure. And this is, I believe, a Veterans Memorial. So on these walks, little bus there, there's often some backtracking, and we're gonna, I think, have to do a little bit of that today just because I want to show you a specific church. We're gonna continue up here past, I think it's Piazzale Giancarlo Siani. Google Maps has it actually listed as JFK, or JF Kennedy Piazza, but I don't see any signs here of that. I see a surprising number of bicyclists on these roads, which seems pretty daring, except that the cars and mopeds and buses all seem to, and pedestrians and bicyclists all seem to intermingle fairly well, fairly safely. I saw one accident where a truck backed up into a parked car very slowly, but otherwise, you know, you have to make room for each other in streets like this, narrow places, and rather than getting fired up, people just get along. seemingly. There's it's a meat shop basically. I like the ceramic bull's heads on the side there, cow heads. Coming up is my favorite little piazza with fountains. It's kind of a social hub down here. People come and hang out. I like this Zerilli cafe off to the left here for my morning coffee and pastry. And then we have cocktails over there. And I'm gonna have to do a bit of a loop around here. I love these houses around here too. I sit and drink my coffee and notice new details every day. I see people just walking out in the middle of the street, and cars have no problems. It's kind of nice. You still want to be careful, of course, but you get used to it. And then, well, I'll show it later. There's little side streets for residential areas, which is kind of neat. A lot of the little farms in the area are burning brush this time of year. And well, I want to show you this too. Orange trees just along the street. And they're little grubby looking oranges, but it's kind of interesting. We got a movie theater here. A lot of restaurants and wine bars, cafes, trattorias, osterias. And it's cheaper and far less busy than Sorrento at its peak. Sorrento's slowed down a lot, and this has sort of maintained its normal pace. But there are vacation rentals here. That's, like I said, we're staying here. And have a nice little apartment, and it was cheaper than, and ultimately quieter than Sorrento. Love hearing them talk, the locals. So they've been working on this building. It's really beautiful. Loop back here. I'd love to go out to the end of the street and show you the look from there as well, but I think it's private property back in there. In a urban scene like this with so much rock and stone, the sound bounces everywhere. But people have brought in and maintained a lot of plants, whether it's a big garden and trees like this, I love this little tunnel of greenery back in there, this villa. Or just potted plants, or sometimes stuff just growing out of the walls. And a little courtyard there. They've been doing a lot of work around here, so some of these roads are chiusato, closed. This is the Chiesa della Santissima Annunziata. I think it's Santa. SS. S dot is an abbreviation of some sort. Love the views from here. So you can see some of the smoke that I'm smelling down there coming up. And we're going to make our ways down to those beaches, at least that's the intent. Somebody out sailing. And then in the distance you can see the mountain of Ischia. And I did a couple walks out there, not on the mountain, but near, well, I'll show you in a second. Love this church. There's a little islandlet at the end, left end of that, and that's the Aragonese Castle, where I started and I believe ended. And then over this way is Naples in the distance. Look at this beautiful, beautiful green water, sometimes blue. There's a little beach down here that's accessible for, I think, hotel guests from the Hotel Sporting, which we're going to go by the back side in a little while. We're going to make our way over to that viewpoint as well. Slowly, slowly. On the far side of that peninsula is a couple towns, then Sorrento. Some of those plants I was talking about. Some more of this growing out of this wall. Who knows how old that wall actually is, but it sure seems ancient with that stuff growing out of it. And the rough rock. What's that? It's a pretty fancy place too, with the orange trees. Well maintained, nice little garden. Villa Maruli. Off to the left here is a theater of some sort, and I believe a church. Chiesa Santa Trinita e Paradiso. If you know, if you know what the S.S. Abbreviation stands for, let me know in the comments, and hit me up in the comments anyway. I love interacting with you guys in the comments section. I do read and respond to every comment that makes it through the YouTube filters. So if you use bad language or anything that's too hateful, they'll catch it or I'll delete it. But everything else, I try to respond to within a day or so. Here's the back end of Hotel Sporting. And we saw from the other side, it stretches down 4 or 5 floors, I think. You can see some folks out there swimming. It's really quite pleasant in the sun, and that water is pretty nice. Huh. Look at that. I came over here the other day, and all of these trees had branches and leaves. It looks like they've come in and trimmed them back. It was really pretty pleasant. You can see some of the leafed trees up ahead next to the church. Interesting. There's a fish shop. Ooh, look at that giant swordfish. Look at the kind of fish they have here. Pretty cool. Up ahead is a little park and a hospital, but we're going to check out this church first. Chiesa, what does it say? Ciro e Giovanni from the 16th century. Little market stand behind there. We're gonna have this little backtrack section. Just back along this trees, back to the view of the coast. One of the nice things about traveling in November and the off season is you get to see the local, and on the side streets here, you get to see the locals doing their thing, living their lives. Off the left is a Panificio, which is a bread shop. If you go to the right along that path, it'll take you to the steps down to the beach, but we're gonna catch those a little bit further along. That bread shop always has a line when it's open, it seems like. I don't really like to backtrack, but you do get a different view of things, especially when you're out on a nature trail or something. You know, we're not accustomed to looking behind us too much and checking that sort of thing out, but it gives you a different view of a place, which can be surprising sometimes. Of all the little dogs. Surprising number of people with dogs in these otherwise rocky, stony cities without a lot of open public space for them to run. I do hear a lot of honking, but it's not really like it would be in the States, or as I interpret it in the States, where it's angry. It's more of a signal. They'll honk around before going around a tight corner, just kind of as a warning. Or if somebody's blocking, it's like, hey, I'd like to get by here. Did see in Pompeii one time when we went over there, a garbage truck driver had stopped the truck in the middle of the road, blocking buses and cars eventually. While he went in and grabbed a coffee at the coffee bar, they were honking at him, and he came out and then did the garbage pickup for that location. As everybody's honking and blaring their horns at him, they were getting a little frustrated. Anyway, it's just sort of that lack of urgency is part of the culture, seemingly. And that's not judgment of good or bad, it just is. Seems to be, anyway. It's my interpretation. This is a neat little park, just a little green space with these amazing views. It can be quite nice at sunset too. So you got a little tower down there, and we'll go down here. Love the color of the water. But they will have some of those piers, we'll see them, they'll have planking that they take up in the winter, so it's up now. But you can go down and you can rent beach chairs at these private places and for the day, and just kind of relax and hang out and get your cocktails and your food service or coffee or whatever, and just hang out for the day. We went down there earlier in the year, a couple weeks ago, and it was quite warm, you know, about in the 70s. This place too. And we didn't go till about noon, which was great, except that because the sun is to the south in November, it went behind the cliff, and so we had to pick up and move twice, and then finally at about 2:30 we left because it was getting cold in the shade. You can see how mountainous it is here as well. It's really pretty jagged and stark. Jagged is not quite the right word, but it's not easy to get around here in terms of just generally walking. Even the roads are so curvy and serpentine. I joke that some of the best drivers in the world must be Italian bus drivers, because semi-joke, because man, they can get those buses down these roads through these little towns where I could barely get a car. It's pretty amazing. All right, so here are the steps that I was talking about, and there's a bunch of them. But it's really kind of pretty here in this little verdant passageway. It is kind of amazing how green it still is in middle November. Even got bougainvillea blooming. It's so brilliant that it kind of so colorful that it almost hurts your eyes. Go down these steps, and they're not quite one pace, right? So you end up doing a pace and a half, or one left and then down with the same foot every time. So you kind of have to midway through switch up, so your downward step switches legs. And people live down here. This is where they live, and this is how they get to their house. Kind of crazy. Off to the left, beyond this house, this actually might be part of the complex, but we took a cooking class. It's called the Penisola Experience, and it's a family-run business, and the guy who was sort of interacting, Cristianaldo, was fantastic. He was awesome and funny, and his wonderful Italian accent, and we just had a great time. We were there with, ended up being a couple other families with kids and one couple. And anyway, there's an olive farm or olive orchard or whatever you call it over there, and earlier in the year they had all these nets stretched out underneath the olive trees. The olives would fall off when they were ripe, and because it's on such a steep hillside, I think the olives would pretty much just roll down hill to a catchment area. It seemed pretty effective. You can see olives on the ground here. You can, of course, press olives for olive oil, and they do that a lot. But in order to eat them, I believe, is that, or am I thinking of dates? You have to salt them in a brine for a while and then cook them or boil them for a while, and then you can finally eat them. And it might be in a lye, L-Y-E. And it always astonishes me how they figured out how to do all that. There's some of that bougainvillea. Can you imagine walking this hill every day, multiple times? So here the path divides, and left to the marina and right to the beach. I want to show you one of these little, more of a abandoned orchard. Still pretty cool. You can see how they just built onto these cliff faces, and some stuff is still used, some stuff has been abandoned. We're going to go to the spiaggia and loop around. can, because some of the leaves have started to fall, I'm starting to get that autumn smell of damp leaves. I like it. We don't get that quite as much in Montana because we have so many, we don't have as many deciduous trees. Even in town, they're sort of either ash or willow for the most part. This path does look a little sketchy, but it's perfectly fine. There's that boat that's been trying to sail, but the wind isn't quite giving them enough power. Vesuvius off to the right. I will admit the infrastructure in this part of the world can look a little gritty and ratty. That's all. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. And here's, for instance, the beach. Somebody doing some rock climbing, some bouldering there. You can see it's a pebble beach with some sand. And now out, I don't know if you noticed from above, I should have pointed it out, but about 20 or 30 yards out, in a lot of places they've dumped a lot of this kind of rock in a line that helps keep the surf and wave action down. Get that salt air smell. It is, I'm going to make a statement here. Please correct me in the comments gently if I'm wrong, but I believe this Mediterranean is a little saltier than the general ocean. And you really feel it in terms, I joke around that I feel it in terms of buoyancy, I actually do, compared to a freshwater lake or a freshwater river. It's pretty nice just to sit out there and float. I mean, you still got to tread water, but it's, I notice a difference. Maybe it's just in my head. My wife teases me about it. Here's a drainage streamlet channel. They're getting their Christmas lights up. Most of this stuff will be closed today. It's so late in the season. But it's kind of humming during the summer. When we first got here, we came down and this restaurant up here, it's Bar Mustafa, with the nice little covered area to the right, was always crowded, always full. This is Marina de Aqua, A-E-Q-U-A. Some fussy ducks under there. under the pier. You can see now that pier there is one of the things I mentioned earlier. It'll be covered with wooden decking, which they've stored underneath for the winter. It'll look more like something like this. Ristorante Mustafa. Looks like they're actually open. I Baretti Girano. Or Giano, maybe. Here they brought up some of the floating docks for the winter. And on the left is a camping area for tent camping, and I think you can put an RV down there. I don't know that I want to drive one of those down here, but I guess people do it. Closed for the season. Here you can, off to the left, you can do excursions to, you can rent boats and go on boat tours and parasailing, etc. Go out to Capri, and which is an island off the Sorrentine Peninsula, which is, as the crow flies, not far. But it takes a while to get there, and it's pretty pricey to get out there, actually. About 20 euros each way per person. This is Albergo Ancore. It's pretty, isn't it? And then there's Le Axidie in Palazzo Murano. But I like these fishing boats. So let's keep going. We had pizza over there at the La Axidie. It's pretty good. Off to the right up here is the hotel's private beach, where we went, and actually, I think it's a private beach, but anyway, it's out there. It's rocky. And we rented chairs and ran away from the shadow from this cliff over here. We're already in shadow. And I guess in the summer they swing these bridges over to give more direct access from the hotel, which is kind of interesting. It's a pretty nice setup in there. Nice bar. It's not super fancy, but it's nice. And you can, of course, get gelatos and pastries and drinks and stuff. Here's another one of those bridges, pedestrian bridges. A lot of these places are much nicer on the inside than you would think from the outside. And while this may look like a private little alleyway or whatever, it's actually part of the public path. Here's how people, they break up their trash and recycling umido, which is sort of your, what the, oh, out by that orange thing I saw some flippers flopping up, and it turns out it's just somebody snorkeling. Anyway, umido, which is your organic waste, mixed waste, which is sort of all the stuff that doesn't go into recycling, and they mix plastic and cans, but they take a tremendous variety of plastics in this particular locality, and then glass, and then paper, carta. And every night is sort of a different bit that they come and pick up, at least at our apartment. So on like on Sunday nights, you put it, they come out at night, so you put it out on Sunday night is like, I can't remember, I think it's bio waste. Then Monday night is plastics, and then mixed waste, and then there'll be like a combo a couple days because they pick up bio waste more often. But they don't have these big trash trucks like we have in the States in most places. So they just swing around and they have to do smaller amounts. So they come every night. Look at that cliff. It's like an, maybe not ancient, but certainly old quay, old wall. There's a little sign back there saying, "Attention, not safe to swim here because there's no lifeguard." At least that's the translation. I assume it just is one of those swim at your own risk. Look at this old barbed wire. That looks a little brutal, doesn't it? Love the stuff coming out of the wall too. Not great for the wall, but still pretty cool. And this, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow walkers, is the end of the line. Thank you so much for joining me on this little exploration, this walk at home video for Vico Equense. You can look back at where we started, way back on that cliff side, above and beyond that cliff side actually. Look at these little warrens of ancient rooms. Buildings. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. We will be heading on to Rome tomorrow. We will, and I will be filming some walks there as well. So I hope you will come back and join us. One thing, if you come this far, click ahead onto another video. That tells YouTube that my videos keep you guys around. It helps me out a lot. But mainly, come back next time. Hit me up in the comments. Love interacting with you guys, hearing your thoughts and your suggestions and your additions and all that. So I will see you again soon. Until then, keep on stepping.